I bodged this knife together very quickly to do some testing. The blade is okay, and it's quite thick in the geometry, so it should prove to be fairly solid. A solid example of what one can do with a Stanley Chisel. And then I put the handle on very quickly yesterday. Well, I didn't actually do it very quickly. I just did it as quickly as possible, which probably took longer in the end than just doing it properly. So I used wood epoxy, and I used the wood epoxy to fill in this gap here, which looks terrible. I didn't know that this wood epoxy would be of the kind that goes spongy. So it's soft and you can't really finish it properly. It looks ugly. And then this part also, it didn't glue on properly. It came off, and then I glued it on again with Titebond. So the epoxy didn't work. It was all flat. So I glued it with Titebond. Then it came out when I did a short chopping test this morning. Popped off. So I made a well in there and then used 5-minute epoxy. And now, a couple of hours later, I can still, I don't want to do it too much, but I can still twist it and there's movement. So it's kind of gunged on there as if with chewing gum. It's not properly glued on. And this is annoying me. And so I have a quick fix for this right now with the super glue and baking soda method, right? So we get our super glue. And I'm just going to put super glue all the way around here. A nice generous amount. Okay, so we're going to have to chop the top off that super glue there. And I'm just going to put it nice, and we're going to chop it again. Possibly another time. Yeah, this is messed up. Okay, well that's definitely going to come out now. A very nice generous amount. Splodge, right? Just going to go over the whole seam. Oh man, I got super glue on my other hand already somehow. It's incredible. It traveled. And then I'm going to sprinkle a load of this baking soda on there. I suppose any white powder would do, but this is an economical alternative. Right, just going to smush it in. Okay. Got a super glue fingerprint on the blade now. And I got an uncomfortable knobbly bit. Okay, well that just came clean off. Cool. So I'll just repeat. And then my idea subsequent to this is because this part already failed and I have to fix it so that it won't. And my idea for that is just put more pins in the end there. Well, that and properly glue it. But I've already messed up the properly gluing it. And so instead of going in there and fixing all the epoxy, you know, cleaning it all out and starting again, I think I'm just going to put the other pins in, glue them in properly, and that should hold. Another hypothesis. It should hold. But really, you know, the end part is not the most interesting part of the proposition. I wanted to see whether I can chop with this, you know, full on chop with it through this tough old vine here, and it remain in one piece. And then once I've done that, you know, take it to the next step. So let's see whether I can finish the job now. I mean, for chopping, it's really not much point in chopping. Honestly, technically, I was just chopping to say, hey, this knife will chop. But this is a pretty rugged usage as well, to do a bit of this, you know. Got some torsion in there, I'm twisting on the handle, I'm pushing on it. And so the super glue and baking soda things failed instantly. So that was good. I'll just stick that in the dirt. Save this little piece. And I guess I will have to clean it off and clean out all the epoxy and then glue it on properly with extra pins. And hopefully I learned my lesson now that it's just not worth it trying to rush things. And I wouldn't do it for a knife that I'm making for someone else. So why should I do that for a knife that I'm making for myself, even if it's just a test knife? You know, in a sense, I kind of thought, well, if I make it a little bit crappier than I would usually do, you know, like using a wood epoxy rather than the G-Flex epoxy, then that'll be interesting too, okay? And that is interesting. It's not uninteresting. But yeah, I think starting from now, I'm just going to try and always do things well, within reason. And so if I need to cut corners, I'm just going to try and do something more simply, which in this case, I kind of got that right. You know, it's a simple design. I used the brass pins instead of making lilac pins because that would have taken longer. So, you know, that's reasonable. They look good too. And oh, the balance point on this knife is, you know, now I've taken that pin, it's moved a little bit, but it's right about where the bolster meets the blade. So, yeah, it can use a little bit of extra weight around the back there, which is also why I used the brass pin for this part. Well, we're nearly through. Let's see if I can do a pull cut without knocking the camera over. Well, so I kind of rest my case. In principle, you can make a pretty good knife out of this method, and it'll do knifey things. And I need to figure out how to do this effectively and repeat. And I quite like this design, so I may try and make some repeats of this particular model with the kind of Lanny's clip blade profile, quite robust. I put a kind of a compound grind so it's thinner, trying to thin it out more here and let it have a kind of a swell out so that the strength-wise the clip point is compensated with an extra swell here. I think you might be able to just about make out how it is moving a little in that direction. So I like that. I like that the handle is made entirely out of lilac wood. I could make one, yeah, using lilac pins as well. And it has absolutely negative finger guard. Nada. Nothing. Thrash. Right? But it has a kind of a choil here. And so that also will lock your hand in to an extent. So yeah, coming. I'm going to throw this at things. I'm going to stab stuff. I'm going to do all kinds of stuff like that. Thanks for watching.